We are so close to wrapping up training camp, and the injury bug decided to visit the Kansas City Chiefs in St. Joe. We're going to dive into some of these impactful injuries and see how they will affect the Kansas City Chiefs diving into week 1 of the regular season. But before we do that, please be sure to subscribe to the channel and like this video, as I'm going to keep you up to date on anything Kansas City Chief related that you do not want to miss out on. And without further ado, let's dive right in. Now, unfortunately, this isn't the type of stuff I want to talk about and the type of stuff you guys want to hear, but the injury bug has struck the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, thankfully, it doesn't look like anything too major, but we'll dive into everything because we don't know the extent of some of these injuries. I'm pretty sure we'll get a more in-depth report coming tomorrow and heading into Saturday's game. I'm pretty sure most of these players will sit. That means we'll also dive in and look to, hey, what kind of role players can step up, try to earn their way on the team, because it's preseason week number 2. That means it's kind of hard actually how to analyze what that actually means, because I'm used to, definitely in a Reed system, we have 4 preseason games. That means when it's the 3rd preseason game, Reed likes to play all of his starters. So does this week 2 kind of correlate into a week 3 preseason game? We'll talk more in depth on that, but let's dive into these injuries, and we're going to start in the wide receiver room. We're going to start with the scariest injury of the day. It was Mecole Hardman. He ended up going up for a jump ball, landed awkwardly on his leg or like on his ankle. I don't know exactly in depth how that went, but he ended up getting up limping, and then he ended up going in the trainer's tent. What scared a lot of people too was not the cart. That's not what scared me, because he ended up riding in front of the cart, but was everyone coming up to him, checking on him. That let me know one or two things: is it could be a serious injury, or like these players and coaches saw how he landed and they might be scared too when they want to check in to see how he is doing. It ends up being a groin injury, but that also doesn't entail how serious the injury is too. He was walking, even though with a limp too, so that's a sign of good news. Also, as I mentioned, he was in the front of the cart, so that's also a sign of good news on how you want to take that too. It's weird how we speculate on what a cart ride is nowadays. It's like if he's on the back, it's like, oh no, cross fingers, pray, everything, because 9 times out of 10, that's a torn whatever. Achilles, ACL, torn muscle, it's something. But when it's in the front, it's like, okay, maybe he's just getting rode up because he can't walk the hill or something like that, cramping, etc. I wish the best for Mecole Hardman. I'm going to hopefully say he's okay, and I don't see him playing in this game, just because I'm going to say the Chiefs are going to proceed with caution and not risk any more injury and kind of give him the remainder of the week off. And camp is about to end too, so it's basically, hey, let's ramp things up week 3 and heading into regular season week 1. Now we're going to stay in the wide receiver room too, because this is kind of a curious injury to talk about, because it's something none of us really knew about, and it's Juju. He's missed the last 2 days of training camp with a sore knee. I don't really know what to intake with that, because none of us knew anything was wrong. He was still showing off a stud in camp. He's still posting on social media too, so maybe it's just another thing where the Kansas City Chiefs are going to proceed with caution, and rightfully so. It's preseason. Last thing you want to do is take a risk, and definitely with a need too on any player, specifically a wide receiver too. A wrong cut on your route, and that thing could go left real quickly. So that's one thing I can see the Kansas City Chiefs try to avoid. He's another one I can see not playing in the game against the Commanders. So the wide receiver room, you are put on notice now. We all think this wide receiver room is basically set in stone, written in pen, the first 5 positions, with it being Juju, Mecole, Sky Moore, MVS, and then Justin Watson. That means that 6th spot is up for grabs. Now, this game is going to be very enticing for me now. If you have both Mecole and Juju sitting it out, that means we get to see more of Patrick Mahomes and Sky Moore, which is going to be exciting to see too, with running with the ones. Also too, and we've seen a lot of camp too, ever since Justin Watson had that great game against Chicago last week with that stellar touchdown and one hell of a throw by Bouchel too. They both made that play look beautiful. We might see Watson running with the ones now too. So let's see how in sync they are, and let's see what kind of chemistry they have running into the regular season. But the ones that are going to be on notice: Josh Gordon, Cornell Powell, and Fountain. And if you want to look at guys like Corey Coleman, someone who can really sneak up and grab a spot. But I'm mostly focusing on those 3. With 2 receivers potentially being out in this game, You guys are going to see more snaps. It's week 2 of the preseason. That means I think this is going to be the game where this will have it set in stone. Kansas City is going to basically trim their roster with this and try to find everything on how it works. And I think this is where the 6th wide receiver spot is going to be taken. If I had to be a betting man, and this is the type of stuff I don't really want to think about, but if I really had to be a betting man, maybe it's because I'm hopeful, and maybe it's because I'm thinking a lot about it, but I think Josh Gordon. He has had a very solid week in camp. Let's hope it translates to the game. But again, Fountain was a preseason stud last year too, and I know I'm kind of biting back on my words because after the Bears game, he was the one who looked like he had the wide receiver 6 spot. I don't know. That is so up in the air. I think whoever really stands out in this game is going to grab that spot. That's how pivotal this game is for not just this position, but every position on the Kansas City Chiefs, and honestly every position in the NFL. Because I think once you go into the 3rd game, that's when all the backups start playing, and I think that's when it's basically game prep time for week 1 against the Cardinals. But again, if I had to put my money down, which thankfully I'm not, I would say Josh Gordon is your wide receiver number 6. Now, staying on the injury front, because we had a lot of them today, definitely with the reports. Another interesting one that kind of caught a lot of people off guard, and one, it didn't really happen on a play in training camp as reports. Chris Jones, he ended up being like today just for 5 minutes, and then he ended up headed back up the hill. He actually headed back on the cart too, but nothing seemed too serious, and then Andy Reid said that it was a sore back. Now, it's very interesting to see that too. I'm not going to make too much with this, but he's another one where I wouldn't play against the Commanders just because we've seen Chris Jones. He looks fully back with the huge sack against the Bears. Those pass rushing moves, that D-line, that definitely the starters looked very solid. I think Chris Jones can miss this game, definitely, if he still feels soreness in his back leading up to Saturday. So, again, that puts the D-line on notice. That means we get to see guys like Danny Shelton, Derek Nottie, and Colin Saunders. Those 3 guys are going to be put on point, and honestly, if you look at it, maybe they are all in fight for a roster spot too. If you would have to look at it, you would think Nottie has that number 2 edge right now, and then it'd be Danny Shelton and Saunders fighting it out, and honestly, I don't know, because Nottie could be in that same boat too. This is another position where whoever stands out the most might claim that spot, and it'll be interesting to see how many defensive tackles Kansas City runs with. I'm excited to see next week Danny Shelton. Not next week, but in this game against the Commanders. Danny Shelton, I think he's going to be a bigger impact than most people think. And then watch now I say it, he doesn't even make it to the regular season, but like I mentioned when we signed him, he is a big dude. Like, he is huge. And he's also already making an impact in camp, too. He's been disruptive on the line. He's been in the backfield. And it's been what Kansas City needs. Definitely on the depth on the D-line. But also, too, we saw Saunders last week being very athletic and getting to Fields. Or was it Fields? Or it could have been the backup quarterback. But y'all know the play. And when he basically chased him down, dudes that big shouldn't move that fast, and Saunders' athleticism might keep him on this team. And I think Nottie is like, we spent high capital on him, and we're just waiting to see it pan out too. I think he's also a very talented defensive tackle. We just want to see it translate on the field. And I think this game against the Commanders, all 3 of them need to show us something before we head into the regular season. I promise you guys, this is my last injury bug report that we will be talking about today, and it is Jerick McKinnon. He was another one that was sidelined today due to a hamstring. And if I had to expect or anticipate anything, I don't think he's playing against the Commanders too, which our vision has always been on this running back room because it's been one of the interesting battles of the camp so far. We've all seen Isaiah Pacheco basically come out of the scenes. He said he was going to take a grown man's job. He's taken everyone's job, and he looks like he's gunning for CEH's job. CEH looks very good in camp. He even had a nice couple impressive runs today where he even had Mahomes excited too. That would be your solid 1-2 punch. I mentioned it in previous videos too, where Jerick McKinnon, I would just like slide him on the team just because of the veteran presence, and he knows the playbook. But I don't know if it hurts him missing this game too. That's why he might play too. It just depends on how sore this hamstring is. But all eyes on Ronald Jones. If McKinnon happens to miss, and he would be the next man up, time to earn yourself a roster spot. time to make yourself trade bait, something. You got not just the Kansas City Chiefs watching out for you, you got 31 other teams too. If you want to try to make this team or if you want to try to make any other teams. I mentioned last week my eyes are on Ronald Jones. They're definitely on him heavily this week. If Mckinnon misses, that means he's going to get more snaps. I don't know if they'll be with the ones. I know a lot of Chiefs Kingdom says, do him right. Let him run behind this starting O-line. Again, I understand that, but I think you got to earn your way. It's not just like Kansas City just threw Isaiah Pacheco in the starters. He showed his worth during camp, and he earned his right to be with the ones more than Ronald Jones. If Ronald Jones would have did that, Ronald Jones would have been running with the ones. I know there's some Chiefs fans bitter, like, come on, just give him a chance. It's not like they're not giving him a chance in camp. It's just he hasn't proved he's better than Pacheco or CEH or even Jerick McKinnon because he's running with the 3 sometimes. So if McKinnon is out against the Commanders, I don't care who he's running behind. He just got to prove, hey, I deserve to be on this team. If not, I deserve to be on another one of the teams in the NFL. So Ronald Jones, all eyes on you. I know this wasn't one of my fun videos because all I was doing was talking about injuries, but I need to cover everything Kansas City Chief related to keep you guys in tune. Just staying hopeful that maybe this was the last of the injuries before the regular season kicks off. I know there's still going to be some. Let's just hope there's nothing major going into the regular season. But also, too, I gave you some things you guys need to keep your eyes out for, definitely with these injuries arise. There's going to be players that need to step up against the Commanders. Also, too, please be sure to subscribe. Also, if you want, turn on that notification bell because coming tomorrow, I'm going to give you my top 5 players to keep your eyes on against the Commanders. So you definitely don't want to miss out on that because that's going to be a fun one. I'm definitely thinking it's hard to narrow it down to 5 players when you want to keep your eyes on all 53 players. But there's a lot of players going to try to make this team, and we're going to tune that down just a little bit. But please be sure to subscribe to the channel. Also like this video, you guys, and I'm going to check out. Y'all take care.